Welcome to the chapter 258 review. Just when you think this previous chapter was insane, this one came out and was arguably even better. I think at this point we're ramping up to the climax of this arc, but we'll have to see as time goes on. I don't want to keep you guys here forever either, so don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy content such as this, as it tells me that you guys want more of it. And with that being said, let's get into this review. So we continue the fight between Itadori and Sakuna, with Hakari still nowhere to be seen. And it said that when Gojo unleashed his two black flashes on Sakuna, he was able to establish a unique reverse curse technique relay in his awakened state. What set this relay apart was the operation and burden of the technique being dispersed throughout different parts of his own brain. With this quote, I guess we can assume that the awakened state is the 120% that comes out after the black flash. I do think this is why Gege didn't tell us Gojo was in an awakened state as well against Sakuna until now, just to subvert our expectations. This also goes back to Mahito, where he was like, thanks to the black flash, I've seen my true nature, and he has that whole transformation. As the prelude of this chapter continues, it's stated that Sakuna should also be able to do the same currently, regenerating his hands and destroying the rest of Jujutsu High with relative ease, or at least under normal circumstances he would've. But due to Yuji striking 7 black flashes directly at the boundary between Sakuna and Megami's souls, Sakuna was not allowed to regain his reverse curse technique. Yuji was completely in the zone to be aiming like that. People say that Yuji landed 8 black flashes, so why does it say 7? I believe it's one of the black flashes that Yuji landed was a parry or a block or just a hand slap rather than a direct strike in the previous chapter. Just a guess though. We then see Miguel and LaRue escaping the fight. They've served their purpose, so they're headed back home. Miguel coming out of this without a scratch is still crazy to me, but anyways, he tells LaRue that he did great. And then Miguel looks in the distance to see this massive spike of curse energy just welling in the distance. And he's like, you've got to be kidding me. So here we see Sakuna's new domain. With it being said, the king's domain traveling along with the sparks of black has returned to its master. So we finally get confirmation as to what exactly Sakuna's black flashes were bringing back. I thought it was just regular output, but I was wrong. Gege actually went and gave him the domain expansion back. However, in the state that Sakuna is in, with the appearance of his domain, we know that what's going on is a little bit different than usual, but we'll get into that in a few. And I also have to say, oh my lord, does it look fire. It does seem to resemble Megami's incomplete domain a little bit with that ribcage bone-like thing going on. It looks weird, but I think this is one of those designs that Gege maybe thought of halfway through Jujutsu Kaisen or something, but he couldn't since he had already established Sakuna's domain, or at least we thought. It's explained that by changing his hand signs and utilizing a part of the brain that wasn't affected by Gojo's infinite void, Sakuna was able to use his curse techniques alongside his barrier techniques. Within all of his impromptu binding vows and all of the uncertainties of this battle he's been dealing with, him landing his black flashes allowed his domain expansion to return with no loss in either output or range. A lot of people have been bringing up the binding vows being convenient, but they've just always been that way. That's nothing really new, and this is stuff we should be seeing from the man who preaches true Jujutsu. And again, Kenjaku established a long time ago that self-imposed binding vows are quite easy to do. They require not much, and you don't lose that much except for what you gained at most if you are to violate them. As we see Mei's crows get carved within the wreckage of Shinjuku, we come to a flashback of the Sakuna raid squad. We see Hakari say that those who want to fight need to have reverse curse technique or anti-domain abilities. And Maki's like, I guess I can't fight then. And Hakari's like, shut the hell up, bro. Those two definitely have some beef going on. Choso interjects and says that both him and Yuji should be able to manage the reverse curse technique. But he questions Shoko, Hakari, and Yuta as to how they compensate for lost blood when using their techniques. Hakari and Yuta basically say they just do it. Shoko, on the other hand, actually has enough experience to break it down. Shoko says that she converts curse energy into blood. There are tons of people who can heal themselves, but not others for one of two reasons. First is the fundamental difference in how they use it, and second, the body of the target refusing to be healed. There are times when the curse energy of the one healing rejects the process, and others where the curse energy of the one being healed doesn't respond to the conversion, which is why my treatment is case by case. So yeah, I guess Shoko can't heal everybody. I think this also implies that Maki cannot be healed by Shoko because Maki has no curse energy in the first place. I guess this applies for Inumaki, his body just probably wasn't messing with her healing. And remember that Shoko couldn't articulate how she does this technique when she was in high school, but now she can, which is a pretty neat detail that shows her growth. Choso then agrees with this explanation, saying this is how it works for me, but my body itself performs the action of converting cursed energy into blood rather than having to rely on the technical aspects of reverse curse technique. And if Yuji absorbs the last of their brothers, it should be the exact same for him, as his body will become like Choso's, being able to do the same. This allows both of them to use reverse curse technique while expending tons of cursed energy. Choso then continues to talk like, damn man, saying that he wants his switch training to be done with someone who can use reverse curse technique. And Yuji's like, what's that? Wee, I think, I don't know dude's name, says that the technique is the teleportation of targets, and if he's with this target, he can teleport them to a place or person that he's previously marked. He uses this foundation to explain what switch training will be. The soul and the body are two separate entities. If the body is the box, then the soul is what's contained within that box. However, there's a key to gaining access to this box that only the target can use. The kid can move the boxes around, but to tamper with the box and swap what's in there, he must be given the key by the target to tamper with the box in the first place. So basically, he can swap bodies forcefully, but he cannot swap souls without permission. After the real fourth heavy hitter concludes this explanation of his ability, Yuji just says that this ability reminds me of Mahito's, and if that's the case, won't the shape of the person's body and soul be stretched out after swapping? But the kid says that he's able to swap the contents without opening them. Because when you receive a box, you can't tell whether or not the contents of it have been tampered with, right? So we move on from the MVP breaking down his ability to Kusakabe asking Yuji a rhetorical question. This question is, why has he been growing so fast as a sorcerer? And before Yuji could try to humble brag about it, Kusakabe cuts him off and says it was due to Sukuna performing high level movements in Jujutsu in his body. And his body remembers this extreme special grade Jujutsu. So make sure to thank him for your exceptionally quick understanding and growth. Is extreme special grade the new power scaling now? Like, let me know. Also, keep this explanation in the back of your mind for the next couple of months or so, as I'm sure we're going to see something with Megami. Kusakabe begins to talk about them doing this again with Yuji, as he's going to body swap into Yuji so he can learn his simple domain and curse energy manipulation. I haven't seen anybody point this out, but Yuji having Kusakabe's simple domain is going to be really great, as Kusakabe's simple domain might as well be a domain expansion in itself, and if anything, a little better. The problem with that, of course, is that sorcerers like Gojo and Hanami could cast their domains and always render that technique useless. Against really any other domains that don't involve concepts, it should give him priority. Hakari says, isn't there a binding vow that prevents people outside of the new Shadow School from learning this ability? The siblings just say they've taken care of that, and Wee says that he can only swap souls twice per person under their circumstances, so choose wisely. So either Yuji swapped with someone else or somebody else got to use that second swap with another character. We'll see. Maybe Yuji swapped with Gojo and his eyes retain the properties of the 6 eyes. Just a guess, I think that would be perfect though. So we come back into the battle. Yuji displaying his new simple domain as he stands within Sakuna's massive domain expansion. The world around them falling apart and changing the battlefield into a wasteland. As things look grim, Yuji has noticed that the eyes on Sakuna's domain were bleeding, so the domain must be incomplete. There's an opening somewhere, he just has to withstand it. As we see Sakuna casting the mudra of Indra, the strongest god, we get confirmation that Yuji's assumption was correct. Sakuna's domain is ridiculously difficult for him to cast currently, but here's what's going on because it's kinda confusing. Sukuna has casted this incomplete domain with a barrier on a scale as large as Shinjuku. This domain having a barrier makes the binding vow allowing the escape route of his normal domain disappear, and due to this change, this allows him to activate the short hit on everything within this barrier, no matter what's contained within it. Remember, when it comes to domains with a barrier, Maki basically has a choice as to whether or not she wants it to hit her, and obviously she'd always choose no. So Sakuna here made his domain just hit everything in it no matter what, since his domain now has a barrier. However, Yuji is shown as it said that Sakuna in this state that he's in cannot maintain this barrier for a long time. 99 seconds. 99 seconds and this ability would collapse. As hell rains down on all who oppose him, they all activate simple domain in order to bear it, with the exception of Maki, who's being protected by Miwa's simple domain. But Yuji's domain collapses and he's hit with Sakuna's slashes, cutting his leg off and sending both him and it flying. As his body is now modified, he's able to instantly reattach it before he lands. He points out that they were able to endure the slashes, and as he looks up, furnace open. The flames of certain death roar forth. So I have to say that I was absolutely wrong about Sakuna being defeated for good this chapter, but if he's pulling out the flames, he's got to be on his last limbs and desperate. This chapter overall was pretty dope, but somebody's gonna whine that Sukuna Kaisen's going on when dude really didn't do that much in the chapter. Also, people have pointed out that Sakuna is using Gojo's hand seal for his domain expansion, and I don't think Sakuna choosing to do this sign is anything beyond symbolism and visual storytelling, as this hand seal is the seal of Indra, the strongest god, and this is his first time using a domain expansion after being the de facto strongest, since he beat Gojo and all. Most people saw Gojo as the strongest before Sakuna defeated him, and so he possessed this sign. But as we know who's the strongest in the series, Sakuna has the sign now, and the story is just making him use it instead of really any other he could be using, because he could use any sign. There's so much I want to talk about, especially when it comes to Megumi, because Sakuna's been in Megumi's body using even higher level techniques than he was using with Yuji's, and he was already quite talented himself. But we're on break week, so expect a bunch of discussion videos. With that said, let me know if you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace out.